It was the beautiful early spring morning of May 4th, 1960, at the Blodgett Hospital in Grand Rapids, Michigan. This gorgeous morning held new importance to the parents Keith and Barbara Vanderhyde. This was the morning that they received their second baby boy, William Neil Vanderhyde, who became a legacy right before their eyes. William, or Bill as most call him, spent most of his childhood in East Grand Rapids. He had two older sisters, Betsy and Christy, one older brother, Kip, and a younger sister named Anne. Bill was a regular Grand Rapids hoodlum who broke windows, rode bikes, played baseball, set fire to random objects, and shot small animals with a BB gun. He spent most of his days outside with his friends David and Joey, stirring up mischief and creating adventures. But as Bill grew, he became a wise and knowledgeable person. He became a traveled and cultured man. He became a great storyteller, and someone everybody admired. But above all that, he became the Bill Vanderhyde that people know today. From his young adulthood adventures to now, Bill has had many experiences and accomplishments that have shaped him to who he is today. Accomplishments like biking from Grand Rapids to northern Canada at age 15, or experiences like finishing high school early and pursuing the opportunity to spend 3 months backpacking in Kenya for a Knowles course at age 19. From small things like building his own darkroom and taking it apart to build furniture out of it for his apartment, or to big things like spending 7 years in Nigeria teaching and making friends. This outstanding man is known and loved by many people, and this outstanding man has many stories to tell. To all, he is known as Bill. To some, he is known as Ekun. But most importantly, to me, he is known as Dad. Can you tell the rat story?
The rat story?
Yeah, the rat story. You've told us.
Well, this was when I was in Nigeria, and they had these rats. They had different types of like rats, but the ones that were the biggest, they had like what they called house rats, which were kind of like a big mouse, and then they had they called them bush rats, and these things were enormous. I mean, they were like bigger than a football. I mean, they were big, and they had these big, long, leathery tails and these noses. The noses looked, I mean, they didn't have any fur on them, and they just almost looked like they'd been chewed up. These big, long, gnarled up noses that were real leathery. And there was a guy who used to trap them, and people like to eat them, bush rats. I mean, they were big. They were like rabbits, bigger than rabbits even. The house that I lived in had this big shower stall, and I'd get up every morning and take a shower. And the drain wasn't in the floor. The drain was kind of against the wall. It was a big, big hole, something like you could push a soccer ball through almost. But it was sort of a big hole right kind of at the floor, where the floor met the wall of the shower, right below the shower spigot. And I would always turn the water. There was a little spigot down below the shower head, and I would turn that on because the water would always come out a little rusty. So I'd turn that out, and I had to turn that on, and I had a little bucket where I just sort of let the water clear out. And I'm standing there inside the shower stall. It's maybe 4 feet by 4 feet, and it's got a big 1 foot concrete curb around it. And I'm sitting here, clearing this water out, and I'm all tired, and all of a sudden, out from the drain comes this giant bush rat. So here I am standing in the shower, just woke up, and out of the drain comes this giant bush rat, and he's sitting in the shower with me. And I just started freaking out, and I didn't have any weapon, I didn't have anything. So I remember I just took the water and I started throwing the water at it, and it runs to the ledge, the edge of the shower stall, and starts to climb over it. And I remember the first time he got just about up to the top of it and then flopped back in to the shower, and he's all flopping around, and I'm refilling this water and whipping this water at it. But to show how big it is, it gets out, scales the stall, runs over to where the door is, and which leads out into this little courtyard. And I didn't have the door closed tight. It was just slightly ajar. This thing goes and takes his nose and sticks it into the little crack of the door, and like a dog would do, just flings the door open with his nose, and then runs out into the courtyard. And from the courtyard, he can get outside. So I take my shower, I go to school, and I tell my students, these are like probably 4th or 5th graders, and I tell them the whole story that a bush rat came out of my drain, and they all told me, oh, you shouldn't go, you have to kill it because an enemy probably sent it to you. One of your enemies sent it to you. So I talked to one of my, a friend of mine, teacher, and I tell him about this. And he said, well, let me talk to Biggie. There was this guy they called Biggie, this big, huge guy that worked at the school, and we'll get a trap from him. So I was picturing, kind of like a cage, or you bait a cage and you catch him in the cage. But what it turned out to be was like a giant mousetrap. I mean, it was like the same principle of a standard little mousetrap that we use, but this thing was like 15 times the size. I mean, it was this giant mousetrap, and it was made out of metal. It was black, and it had spikes on the bottom of it, so when the bar came down, it would force it against these spikes. And I was like, whoa, look at that thing. And I take it to my house that night, and I fry up this bacon. I'm like, I'm going to catch that rat. And I fry up this bacon, and I take some wire, and I wire it onto the little trip on the trap. And I set the trap, put it out in the courtyard. And in the middle of the night, just randomly, I just kind of wake up. And my first thought was, I wonder if I got the rat. And just as I thought that, I hear the rat trap boom, go down. And then I can hear this, and you can hear the rat trap scraping on the concrete floor of the courtyard. And it's like, and it's all the metal's banging around on the concrete, and I start shaking. I'm like, oh, and I thought, should I go out there? And I thought, no, I'm not going out there. And for the next, like, maybe half hour, the thing's just slowly dying. It's just like, and then it would slowly turn into this, to the point it was just like, and I was just sitting there waiting for the thing to die, and finally it's just like, I'm like, okay, finally it goes quiet. I thought, okay, it's dead. So I fall back to sleep eventually, and the next morning I wake up and I go out, to look at it, and it's gone. The trap is there, but there's no rat. There's blood all around on the concrete. The bacon's gone, but no rat. And I was like, oh my God. I thought there's no way that could have gotten out of that. And I heard it die. Where did it go? So I go to my students that morning, and I tell them the story. I tried to trap it last night, and this is what happened. And then they were all really scared. They were telling me I couldn't go back to my house. At the end of the day, as I was walking down the trail to get back to my house, they were trying to pull me back, saying, no, you can't go. So anyway, at some point I talked to this teacher friend of mine, and he said probably what happened is, they live in these packs, and probably once this thing died, the others in the pack probably smelled the blood, and then they came and just ate this thing right out of the trap. But I never had another rat in my house again.
Stories like these are the reasons why I have admired my father ever since I was little. He is a person who can use words powerfully and make them come alive. He is a people person who has never failed to be outgoing and captivating, befriending even the most terrifying of people. He is a person who gives wonderful advice and never stops talking. He is the greatest man on earth, my best friend, and my dad.
Sugar Mountain, with the barkers and the colored balloons. You can't be 20 on Sugar Mountain, though you